everybody. Welcome to another bonus episode. Actually, this is your Christmas present, you ungrateful fucks. It is the Christmas block leave. And so rather than do our normal thing, even though a shitload of news has happened, fuck all that. We're going to talk about a movie. And with us today is me and Nate and Joe Kassabian from Lines Led by Donkeys. Joe, how are you this morning?
Good. In the great wet Northwest over here. How about you guys?
I'm in the great wet Midwest.
I'm in the great, today, kind of wet North Atlantic. And yeah, all's good. You know, just doing some British Christmas. I'm basically sober right now. So like, it's interesting because Britain goes hard when it comes to being fucking hammered every day during the holidays. And I'm not drinking at all. But it's good.
Do you have to say Happy Christmas over there?
I mean, I suppose nobody expects it from you when you talk like I do, so it's okay. You get a buy on knowing
what's
the score.
The British war on Christmas? You can't say Happy Christmas, so you say Merry Holidays or something.
So one thing that's interesting here is that they abbreviate Christmas to Xmas a lot more. Like, and I don't know if it's just laziness or like it's something to do with not saying the word Christ, but like, you see that way more commonly here than you do in the US. In the US, it seems like it's only ever done like kind of tongue in cheek. And here it's like at straight up face value, you'll see ads like Xmas sales and things like that. So Britain is like less religious than America by an order of magnitude. So I mean, that makes sense.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into our movie. So this time around, we decided to watch the 2005 biographical movie Jarhead by Anthony Swofford. Written by Anthony Swofford, who is a Marine, talking about his time in Afghanistan. They're in Saudi Arabia and Iraq, right? I wasn't really.
No. They're in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait.
Which are all, I need to look at a map because
that brings up some confusion later when they fuck with some of the details. But yeah,
so basically, Kuwait is immediately south of Iraq, and Kuwait and Saudi Arabia share a border. Iraq and Saudi Arabia also share a border, but the disputed territory is Kuwait, which, to be fair, was at one point a province of Iraq, and the British basically broke it off and turned it into its own country.
Okay, because I always thought, hold on, I'm looking at a map now. Okay, there's Kuwait. Where's Saudi Arabia?
South of it.
Oh, okay. I always thought Saudi Arabia was north of Iraq. That's that fucking good ass Catholic school education where it's like we learn about Jesus and then there's those brown people over there that we don't bother with. So look, I took at my fucking Catholic school, we took a religion class, like religions of the world. Guess what we learned about? Fucking Lutheranism.
I'm sure it was a pretty balanced take on the other world religions. I mean, it's something Catholicism's good at, is being, equal.
So I was in a religion class in German school, and my teacher one time accused me of lying. I guess I had fibbed about not doing my homework, and he's like, "You do know where liars go, right?" And he pointed down, and I don't know if he was saying hell or the principal's office, but it stuck with me to this day.
Yeah,
in a Catholic school, that'd be way worse of a thing to say.
Did you ever hear the joke about the little atheist boy is not doing well in school, and his parents like, well, let's send him to a Catholic school. We hear that they do better there, and he goes there, and 3 months later, all of his grades are up, and he's getting A+ across the board in math class. And they said, "Wow, this is incredible. You're doing so well, especially in math." It's like, "Mom, they got a guy nailed to a plus sign in every fucking room. Are you kidding me? This is insane." Anyway, so Nate, give us a rundown about give us the plot of Jarhead.
All right. Well, so Jarhead opens up with like a monologue from the narrator talking about being a grunt, and he shares his story of joining the Marine Corps. The opening scene after the monologue is basically him in Marine basic training getting razzed by a drill instructor. And he, gets abused and is yelling, and there's doing all this stuff back and forth. And it ends with him saying, when he asked, why are you even here? And he said, "Sir, I got lost on the way to college, sir." And basically what we learned from him is that he's his father's a Vietnam vet. His family is pretty fucked up. His sister's in a mental institution. His parents have an abusive relationship. This is all hinted at. But then he joins the Marine Corps. And when he gets to Parris Island, No, take that back. When he gets to Camp Pendleton in California, he basically gets sent to his company as an infantryman, then gets sent to his platoon, and they do like a jumping in ceremony thing, and he fights back, and he then later on is sick, taking a shit, and Jamie Foxx's character shows up, who's a staff sergeant and he's the head of the surveillance and target acquisition section in their battalion, which is, I think that, correct. I'm pretty sure that Marine infantry, either battalions or regiments, are going to have some kind of a STA element, a STA element. I don't know. I'm not like super up on the doctrine, but it's made out to be a much more elite thing, I think, because in the sense that like it's what this doesn't necessarily reveal is that this is like being in your, if your battalion has a scout platoon and they do tryouts, it's basically that. But like he's a Marine Scout sniper, and it's obviously like a pretty intense thing. So you could do like a long training montage where he goes out for it, he gets faked out thinking that it's learning to be like getting to be a bugle player. Instead, he shows up at the formation and like they joke with him and fuck with him, and then he decides to sign on. And you do like this training montage where they're doing stuff like paintballing, they're doing marksmanship, they're doing PT, they're running, they're doing all sorts of like classes on things, and you're watching this formation get smaller and smaller as they're running, of like people who've dropped out, and then effectively the one scene that's interesting to me in that, just as a quick sidebar, they do it like a training montage, but then it stops when they're doing this machine gun training where they're crawling under sea wire in the mud while someone's firing live rounds above their head, and a guy freaks out and stands up and then winds up getting shot and killed. And it's strange because it's a training montage, but it stops kind of mid-scene there and like lingers for a while, and that's sort of a hint of what's to come, in the sense that a lot of scenes like that will happen where it'll linger on a visual for a while. But anyway, they're scout snipers now. He's a scout sniper now, and he is training, and then they get word that Saddam Hussein has invaded Kuwait. So this would have been in August 1990, and all the Marines are partying, like they're like, hell yeah, we're going to war, and they go to see Apocalypse Now in the Post Theater, and they're all cheering and like going for it, and just like going hog wild watching it. And then the film gets interrupted because they're being told to report to their battalion area because they're getting deployed. And they get deployed to Saudi Arabia. They show up, and basically the battalion commander introduces himself to them. One assumes they know who their battalion commander is, but regardless, it's for the viewers. So this happens, and he tells them that there's going to be a lot of like politicians have to talk first, the diplomats have to talk first. So there's going to be a war, but they're going to have to wait. And what this turns into is just this endless series of boredom, being stuck out in the desert, not able to do anything. And they're just training. They're training with their Pro Max. They're training, doing just like walking patrols. They're doing PT. They're just like trying to stave it off. Like it's just, and then complaining about, not hearing from home, not being able to talk to anyone. Talking about Jody, a guy, they get rotated back to the rear right after Swafford's Jake Gyllenhaal's character gets a letter from his girlfriend that seems to indicate there's someone else in his life. Or someone else in her life. They go back to the rear. A guy gets a video from his wife. She sent a copy of The Deer Hunter, but it's her fucking their neighbor instead. It's been taped onto it. And the guy freaks out, and Jake Gyllenhaal basically wants to watch the movie again, wants to watch the fucking again, and his buddy, the corporal, who's played by Peter Sarsgaard, but whose name I forget, basically says, "Don't. What the fuck's wrong with you?" And he kind of sees that something's wrong with Jake Gyllenhaal, and the boredom is starting to get to them. In one scene, he gets alcohol from a guy that it's Office Jim, who has it, and they have a party on Christmas, but the guy that he's paid to take his fire guard fucks up and accidentally shoots off a bunch of flares, and leaves a sterno can burning in it, or a camp stove burning, and it sets some cloth on fire that then basically sets off a bunch of parachute flares. And so he gets in trouble, and he's like has to do shit detail, and he gets busted down to private. And his life just keeps getting worse and worse, just stuck out in the desert, and he fucking hates it. But then come January, they actually get word that the war is starting. And so they go out to the border, to the berm between between Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, and they're digging entrenching positions, or sleeping holes, basically like small foxholes. And Jamie Foxx, the staff sergeant, pulls Jake Gyllenhaal or Swafford aside and tells him that his buddy Peter Sarsgaard's character is getting kicked out of the Marine Corps, that he lied about his background, he had a criminal record, and so they're going to give him a bad paper discharge when he gets back from deployment. And so the two of them are talking, and basically he's just the staff sergeant is like, you need to make sure, like, can you keep him in line so like shit doesn't go crazy for this, because I need him in the game. Anyway, the next day when they're supposed to move out at 0900, they start taking incoming, and so they're dialed in. They're having accurate what looks like mortar fire. He has to run through like from their position on top of the berm all the way back to like this commo truck to get radios for the battery, but the batteries are dead and the dudes in the truck don't. He just takes them anyway, and then they're saved by the fact that the Iraqis retreat, and so they're no longer taking fire. So they then push out forward and like walk through the desert, on patrol. Pushing forward with like Humvees and other vehicles, and then A-10s accidentally strafe them and wind up blowing up a Humvee or like a deuce and a half, or it was like an open back, like a tail, like an open back Humvee. And they wind up having to like medevac a bunch of people, and it just gets more and more surreal. As they keep pushing forward, they come upon the highway of death, and they have to walk north, basically parallel to the highway of death. So they just see all these corpses. It's starting to fuck with people more and more. They pull aside to like eat lunch, and Jake Gyllenhaal says he needs to go take a shit. He goes out and finds like what basically looks like dudes sitting around a bunch of ammo crates, kind of shooting the shit, except they've been hit with a bomb and they've just been incinerated. So they're all just like corpses. And he throws up, and he gets back, and you can tell that he's starting to feel it, like he's being psychologically affected by it. And then they push forward and they see oil wells are burning. So as they keep going, there's fucking oil everywhere. Like they have to dig a sleeping position for the night, and the wind changes and they're just basically drowning in oil, just having oil rained on them. And one guy gets it in his eyes and he starts freaking out, and they have to like wash him off, and the staff sergeant decides to move them, like get them out of there. But like people are starting to break down more and more. The character the guy who's played by the guy who played Cheddar Bob in 8 Mile is a private in this unit, and he starts fucking up and like abusing corpses basically. And they're like, scolding him. They take the body away. There's like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? But you can see it's like building towards this like really weird kind of intense feeling. And then the next day, they get pulled out and told that they need scout snipers for a battalion mission. And so Jake Gyllenhaal and Peter Sarsgaard get sent to basically they have to go and infiltrate to get to a position so they can engage a radio tower on an airfield, because the fear is that if they don't take out the officers that are in charge of this airfield, then it's going to have the battalion's going to have to take control, or they're going to have to divert a lot of resources to control this area, because these guys can be calling in aircraft that then could be attacking American positions. So they go out, and as they're about to take this shot, they've gotten clearance to take the shot to shoot these guys. It looks like the battalion fires officer, there's a major who Jake Gyllenhaal met previously when he made him put the bucket of shit back in the burn shitter the day he was getting punished for the incident with the parachute flares getting fired. And he basically takes charge and is like, no, we're going to call in an airstrike. And Peter Sarsgaard freaks out. And he's like, no, this is our shot. And they get in this fight. And Peter Sarsgaard basically has an emotional breakdown, because he's like, we're here to kill. Why don't you let us get our kill? And there's this weird kind of moment and where Jake Gyllenhaal sort of just looking at the major like, I'm sorry. And he says, you stay, boys, or some weird motherfuckers. And they call in the airstrike and they blow up this airfield. They then realize after the fact that they've missed their exfiltration hit time, and so they have to walk back to battalion through the sand dunes, and they're like, fucking, we don't know what's going on. They're hearing Scud missiles, they're freaking out, they're like, oh my god, this is it, we're gonna fucking take contact. And then they cross over the berm, and what they thought was screaming was actually people partying, because the Iraqis have surrendered. And so they get there, and everyone's partying, dancing around a fire, just kind of purging themselves. And Jake Gyllenhaal says, I haven't shot my rifle this whole time. And Peter Sarsgaard says, well, you can now. And so they just start shooting guns off, and then everyone starts firing weapons into the air. Anyway, after that, the war is over, and they get brought back to California. There's a parade. people handing them beers, people are cheering. A Vietnam vet gets on and like is yelling "Oorah" and like "Semper Fi," and then like clearly is having kind of like an emotional moment, like has to take a seat. It's just like a kind of an awkward experience, and then it ends with sort of like a montage of them where they are in their life now, except Jake Gyllenhaal's character gets a knock at the door, and it's the private that I forgot this scene. He's really mad at the private for fucking up and getting him in trouble, and he basically locks and loads a magazine in his M16 and points at the barrel in his face and says he's going to kill him, and then tries to get him to shoot him, and like Jake Gyllenhaal says, "Shoot me instead," and has like this intense kind of breakdown moment with this private. Anyway, that kid shows up now, long hair and beard, out of the military, and tells him, you know, like, "Hey man, I got bad news." And they have to go to the funeral of Peter Sarsgaard's character who has died. And his death isn't explained, but it obviously like it's a shitty reunion for all of them. And then the movie ends with sort of this a refrain from the beginning about like, you know, a grunt holds a rifle and no matter what he does, his hands remember the rifle. And you see Jake Gyllenhaal's character sitting in his room, kind of like absentmindedly, and on the screen is TV footage of the war in Iraq. And that's the end of the movie.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and do our 3 ups and 3 downs. And since Joe, since you are the guest, we will let you go first. What did you like about this movie, and what did you not?
I actually forgot how much I liked this movie. I know I watched a lot because it came out before I enlisted, but I watched it a lot, and it was like how a lot of shitty racist people watch American History X and only remember the first part and really like it. Like, this is one of the movies that I really liked when I joined the military, which is kind of hilarious because it's ostensibly an anti-war movie. Or at least it's pretty disillusioned with the entire war when he comes home. And I think that's why I like it so much now. And especially because the characters in his unit were really, really strong. Because the story is about him dealing with all these people and dealing with the emotions that he's dealing with rather than the actual war, because he never gets shot at. But you know, it does have one of my favorite lines of the entire movie, and of like all of film history. That's "I got lost on my way to college." I think I use that more times than I can count whenever anybody asks why I enlisted. But things I didn't like, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to come up with, honestly. I didn't really like that. It didn't explain how his friend died. Peter Sarsgaard's character died. Also, it didn't really go into some of the other stuff Swafford talked about afterwards. And I mean, I think they were in the book, but I've never read the book. Is like his hometown parade he never went to. He dipped out the back because he didn't think he was a hero, and he didn't want to go through all that with all these people calling him a hero and waving a flag around. Like he ran away from it, and I think that would be a pretty good way to end the movie, but they didn't do it.
Yeah, and there's that whole parade sequence. Like, I had really mixed feelings watching this again because I saw it in theaters in 2005. And I remembered liking it then because this came out in 2005 and I went to Afghanistan in 2004. So it really kind of spoke to me on that level of like, you know, you go and you try to, you're thinking, I'm going to do something worthwhile, and you end up not, you know, the entire time is just one big blue ball. And it kind of felt like that, and you're like, it comes to the end, but like this time around watching it, like older and, you know, more anti-war than I used to be, and it's just like the entire thing is they're mad because they didn't get to kill somebody. Like in the end, because Peter Sarsgaard's character is very like he's the rock the entire time. Like he's the one who manages to keep his shit together. Even the staff sergeant gets fucking weird at one point, where Jake Gyllenhaal wanders off on the highway of death, and he just has this like, oh Jesus fucking Christ, what's happening here? And then Jamie Foxx comes over and he's like, yeah, you know, I could be working for my brother. He's got a drywall business in Compton. I could be doing this, that, you know, making $100,000 a year. You know why I don't? It's because I fucking love this job. You know, I thank God every day that I get to be a Marine. And like there's a lot. Like I was always trying to figure out like what the fuck is the message behind any of this? Like what are you trying to convey? Because it feels like going down the line, it's the breakdown of Swafford into, realizing like, oh, this, this war and this, everything that I'm doing is just kind of fucked up. I, threatening to kill one of his friends and then, or one of his squad mates, and then wanting the squad mate to kill him. The scene where one of them is like dragging a dead Iraqi behind him, like, and just like hanging out with a dead guy. Everybody has their, like, in the squad kind of has their, like, has a weird moment of like where Swafford's just like, what the fuck is the matter with these people? And then in the end, it's Troy, who, Pierce or Sarsgaard's character that has the breakdown. And it's like, eventually you're just like, these guys are just like mad they didn't get to murder somebody. Like, that is the entire thing, is that and at the end when they have the party and they're all shooting their guns in the air, he's like, I never got to fire my rifle. And he's like, well, you can fire it now. And they're all shooting their rifles off into the air. That's like basically just like Marine masturbation at that point. So I think that my biggest down is just like, I just don't understand what was the point of this, of telling these stories. Because in the end, he has that, he's just, where he says, the war never left us. But it's like, what did you do? I mean, other than be bored and drunk and fuck up a lot. I mean, you saw some fucked up stuff, don't get me wrong. The Highway of Death, I can't imagine like having to walk through and camp out and eat lunch on the Highway of Death. But also, the entire thing just seems to be like, yeah, I was just really sad I did all this training, I didn't get to kill anybody. And then I got out and I became a writer. And I'm still sad that I didn't get to kill anybody. I mean, the war sticks with you. Don't get me wrong. The war sticks with me. I didn't want to kill anybody, and thankfully I never had to. So it all kind of fucking worked out for me. But my job also was not predicated on, the way that you are good at what you do is you kill somebody. But I do like that it had a lot of I guess it's one of the more realistic military movies I've ever seen. People ask, what's it like to be in the military? It's like, watch Jarhead, where you're just bored and fucking off a lot and trying to like not be bored and trying to stave off boredom and probably fucking up, massively in the process of doing it. So, in a lot of ways, the movie itself is really well done, and in that kind of aspect, the story of it. I don't know about the movie, but the story of start to finish of himself in the Marines, and afterwards how everybody's. I think Jamie Foxx's character. I think when they did that montage you talked about, Nate, I think he was like a first sergeant at that point. Like he's just.
No, he's a staff sergeant.
At the end, his
you mean
rank,
at the end, you're right. At the end, he's a first sergeant.
He's got something in the middle of the he's got the 3 up, 3 down, and everything. And yeah, I mean, it's.
I thought you meant the beginning, but yeah, he's a lifer, clearly.
So, and it's, I don't know. It's just, it felt like, and maybe that's the point. Maybe the whole point of it is also there is no story. There is no lesson to be learned here other than, this was a chunk of my time and this is how I feel at the end of it. And I'm just telling you this story, which is fine. If that's how it's supposed to be, then that's how it's supposed to be. I'm perfectly fine with accepting that. But it did just feel like at the end of it, it's like, I don't understand what the point of this movie is other than to make me feel bad for you, which I don't, because you didn't have to. Like, I feel bad you had to deal with these things. I feel bad that your friend died, but I don't feel bad that you didn't get to kill somebody. And I wish just in the end, if there was just kind of a, if Swafford was just like, I'm glad I didn't get to do it, or I'm still mad that I didn't get to do it. Because it seems like that kill shot is what everything kind of culminates to and is predicated on. And maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I'm reading that incorrectly, because, it does seem like maybe the kill shot was more Troy's thing than it was Swafford's. Because Troy's the one who had the breakdown at the end but I mean, Troy had a lot of shit going on because he was getting kicked out of the Marines. So, that was his ending. Like, he wanted to do something before he gets discharged or whatever. But I don't know. It just feels I mean, I know it's biographical. It's autobiographical. It's written, by Anthony Swafford about his time. So that could be all that it is. It's just a, here's my life in this, chunk of time. And here's the things that I did. And here's how I felt about them. And here's how I feel about them afterwards. And we need more writers to go to war, I guess, because, it was fairly poetic at the end of it. But at the same time, I just I don't know if there was a point to telling the story. Nate, what do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, what I thought that the visuals in the film, and I think that Sam Mendes as a director is very dialed in on visuals, and he's also seems to be a very good director with regard to like giving instructions to actors, because I feel like my problem with this movie, my downs are all about the script. My ups are all about, I think visually speaking, it's really striking. I think that there are moments in which like they allow things to happen on screen that are just sort of like almost like poetic. You are able to dwell in these moments long enough. There's also like a real kind of texture to the way that things are set up. Like I find that the way that he directs and the way that he uses his director of photography, there's so much involved in like the palette, like the washed outness of the desert, the really dark interior colors and like the harsh lighting inside the barracks, the silhouetting and such with for example, when they get rotated back to the rear and they're able to shower, he's able to shoot a scene in which a bunch of dudes are fucking naked, but they don't actually show anything that would require them to censor the film or whatever because of the way that it's lit. So you don't see it because everyone's backlit so much, you just see bodies and you realize how like completely anonymous they all look. Like there's so much visual language in this film.
You see some shaded balls.
I felt
there.
like
I'm gonna say.
You do see some shaded balls, but that's if you're looking for balls. So
Hey.
I mean, like if you're looking for balls, Francis,
I did
there
not
are balls
notice
to be
balls.
found.
Oh, okay. So because
I did not notice any balls, Francis.
I apologize for paying attention to the movie that we're reviewing. I'm sorry that you guys were like oh, I can't look at shaded balls or anything. I'm just saying.
Well, something I didn't. I noticed
so
them,
you
but I
did
didn't
see.
like get
Okay,
out my.
so-
I didn't get out my green leader book and be like, all right, at this scene in the movie, I saw nuts. I mean, look. So I feel like the visuals in this film are so striking that you find yourself really kind of getting swept up in it in the same way that The Road to Perdition, one of his other films, has such a strong aesthetic feel that it's like this almost hallucinatory kind of being sucked into the 1920s or 1930s when it's set. Similarly, I mean, American Beauty was a very visual film. Like there was so much that was told through visuals in that film. So it doesn't surprise me that this being another Sam Mendes movie that it would be this way. Another up, I would say, is the training montages are good, and I feel like there's this tension between. I really like the way that the training scene happens with the guy freaking out with the machine gun, and it stops the montage, and there's no more music. There's no more like all of a sudden it's just dead silent, and that I felt like, and then like it. The shot changes and it's like way wide shot of him of Jamie Foxx, Staff Sergeant Sykes, just like berating this corpse, and you just see mud and rain and like a dead dude tied up in the wires. It's such an intense visual, and that to me, like I just felt like it was so striking. My downs, I read the book and I saw the movie first, then I read the book. I saw the movie years ago, and then I just watched the movie again very recently, and so. I feel like there's so much more depth, there's so much more commentary, and there's just so much more nuance in the book. And I realize films have to flatten things. But what I think is bad about the way this script works is that it takes things that are in context that show you the madness of war, but in context, like a thing happens because of other understandable circumstances that then lead to a crazy thing happening. And in this film, it just makes them kind of happen almost like created from nothing. Fowler abusing the corpse, for example. In the book, it's telling the story of guys after the end of the fighting who are stuck on funeral detail having to bury all these Iraqi corpses, and people start like beating the shit out of them with their entrenching tools, and a guy, I can't remember if it's Sykes or it's Sykes' stand-in or someone else, stops one of them. Jake Gyllenhaal or Tony Swafford relates this. He's like, someone basically says, stop this shit, this is gonna fuck with you later if you keep doing it. Like you won't be able to, your conscience won't be able to live with what you're doing right now if you don't stop it. So that makes a lot more sense than just like, oh, Cheddar Bob is so crazy, he's going to fuck with his body. Like in a way, it kind of cheapens the impact of these scenes by making them seem as though it's just like, oh, well, once you go 60 days without a shower, you just start fucking abusing bodies, for example.
Yeah.
And why does this guy want to kill people so badly? It's not that he's this homicidal maniac. It's that his entire life is wrapped up in being a Marine and being the best Marine he can. And he knows that's going to be taken from him. And he wants this like authentic experience. Just like there's so much of an undercurrent in this film of like, oh, in Vietnam, they got after the shit for real. Like his dad's a Vietnam vet. His dad saw combat. His dad never talked about it. The Vietnam vet who like saw the shit and it's like kind of fucked up on the bus. Like the watching the Vietnam movies, watching The Deer Hunter, watching Apocalypse Now, Peter Sarsgaard saying like in Vietnam it would take a day to move 1,000 yards today. It'll take 5 minutes today. Like we're not going to see shit. There's so much of this like we've got to live up to Vietnam, and so like there's so much of that just if you know what you're looking for, you'll get it. But if you don't, then it's just like, wow, soldiers are so crazy. Everyone in the military just does crazy things, and I think that flattens and cheapens what I found to be the really really strong enduring impact of the book.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talked about all these things that are going back to Vietnam, and the scene with Cheddar Bob's they stole from a Vietnam movie rather than the actual book they based the movie on, where the scene would be much more powerful in my opinion. But I don't think that they're going to shoot a movie where they have a whole bunch of Marines beating corpses with shovels. I don't think Hollywood has gotten there quite yet.
I mean, I was shocked just to see a film where they even touched on the concept of friendly fire. You know what I mean? Like that being a thing. Like that was surprising to me that like they showed that scene with the A-10s strafing their column and that like half track or whatever, the open back Humvee getting hit and like Marines lit on fire, like all fucked up from it, like having to be medevaced and that kind of thing.
Well, I was going to say, when we were talking about that scene where he's got the corpse, I watched most of the movie like 2 days ago and I finished it this morning. And so I was a little hungover while I was watching it this morning, and I was laughing because when they see the guy over there, he's like digging, and they're like, "What the fuck is that guy doing?" And so they call out to him, and he has this weird like he like ducks down, kind of like, "Oh shit!" And for some reason, that was just like the funniest fucking thing to me when he just like he's discovered like over there with this corpse. It's good shit, like a little rabbit being startled in the bush or something.
Like the whole thing doesn't make sense. Like that whole scene doesn't make sense to me.
Or the scene where let's talk about scenes if we've done ups and downs, because I gotta talk about this, right? When they're on the berm and they're taking mortars. I mean, the explosions lead me to believe that those are supposed to be mortars, because if they were like 105s or 155s, like those dudes would either be dead or there wouldn't be a poetic fucking getting kissed by sand scene. But that thing where he stands there with his eyes closed, just like letting the sand wash over him. He's like, oh, now my combat has begun. My war had begun. It's like, I understand that it's meant for visual effect, right? I get it. And I realize that in films, like we've joked about this before, that an actual accurate war movie would be 18 hours long and it would suck, except like 15 minutes of it would like give you PTSD. But the thing about it is, though, there's stuff that can be done. You don't have to go so far down the road of making it into this weird poetic symbol when you could just have that communicated, but in a way that doesn't make it seem as though going to war is this weird masculine proving ground jerk off fest. To me, the scenes where like they're fucking around with the football, like, and I forgot about this in my summary, like that the news crew is there, and so Sykes makes them put on their chem suit, like put on their pro masks and their chem suits and then play football. And even though it's like 112 degrees out and dudes are passing out as heat casualties, they start field fucking, which I guess is just humping each other with your clothes off. I don't know. I wasn't a Marine. And there's all these things, like these things that to me, like there can be a moment where you can draw back and you could maybe have the voiceover, but to have it be in such a way where, I don't know, or like the horse in the middle of the desert with the oil fields, that is plausible. I mean, weird shit like that has happened to me in combat, where just random things come out of nowhere. An animal comes out of nowhere, like a thing is there. You see something that's just like an object taken out of context, like juxtaposed, and it's just such a weird kind of shock back to, I don't know, like reminding you of the absurdity of it. But that scene on the berm, to me, is such a weirdly accurate combat scene as far as like the radios don't work. Go get the batteries. Who has the batteries? Oh no, the box he grabbed the battery from is actually the dead battery box. Like the gear doesn't fucking work. You know, that so much of it seems so well done, but to have it be also have this kind of American Beauty-esque thing rammed in there, to me kind of just like made it into, oh, this isn't meant to be a war movie. This is a movie for civilians.
Yeah. And I kind of
Which,
agree.
To be fair, it is. But I mean, and I'm a prick about it. I mean, I get it. But to me, like, there's ways to evoke that without having to make it so symbolic to the point that you expect there to just be like them to break into song.
Yeah, and like this could have been, I imagine Mendes and Swafford were in communications during most of this, or I don't know, he had a military advisor on staff, like, so getting mortared, do you think you just stand there in the open? They're like, no, man, no, we would at least kneel.
because of a project that I'm working on that involves some stuff that's set in LA in the 80s. I have been researching, and I also just like out of fixation, like rewatching like old Red Hot Chili Peppers videos, like from the early days, like from like the mid to late 80s. And it's funny because I've watched a ton of Red Hot Chili Peppers videos in the past 2 days, and then I watched this movie and I'm like, oh wow, it's basically the same. It's just like a bunch of dudes just all over each other with their shirts off all the time, being crazy. Like that to me like made me feel as though this film plays up the hypermasculinity, which while not, I don't know, being diplomatic, while not inaccurate, it does seem as though so much of it is done as an abstracted symbol, as opposed to just, to me, what I think is more telling is when fucked up things happen and they're absolutely in context and people are like, wow, yeah, that's fucked up. And like you realize, it's only after the fact that you realize how dehumanized you've become.
Yeah, and I think that's one of my favorite parts of the whole movie. And I know Francis is talking about like they're all really sad about not getting to kill somebody. But like, I feel like this movie could have also been like a movie of the hooligans of Kandahar, because in the very beginning, he wanted nothing to do with the Marines. He said like 5 minutes after basic training, he's like, I'm starting to think this is a bad idea. I can totally sympathize with that, because I went to basic training when I was 17 years old. And within about 20 minutes, like, this was a fucking bad choice.
Isn't it great that they let 17-year-olds make life-changing decisions like that for, and then sign a fucking contract for 4 to 6 years? It's awesome. It's a great idea that we do.
No, Francis, it's fine. My mom signed off on it.
Oh my god! Oh no, I'm the same. My parents didn't sign the permission slip to let me play football, but joined the army at 17. Wow, here you go.
Right? And like, as soon as I got to my first line unit, I'm like, how the fuck can I get out of here 3 years early? And that's what he was doing, was he was chugging laxative in the bathroom and trying to get kicked out from malingering. And I kind of felt the same way all into my first deployment. Like, I'm wasting my time here. I'm not fucking doing anything. There's actually a really good book called Blood Makes the Grass Grow Green, where it kind of talks about the same thing. A guy joins to fight in the global war on terror and spends 3 years in Hawaii doing nothing, then gets stop loss to deploy with 2 months left. But it's a great book. But you spend so much time in slowly accepting, like, this is really fucking stupid and I need to get out of it. And then, like, after my first deployment, or during my first deployment, I totally fell into the same. Obviously, I didn't pull a gun on anybody that was in my platoon, but I kind of end up feeling the same way. I'm like, well, I'm fucking here. I might as well kill somebody. And I know that's a really bad thing for me to say. That's a really bad thing to ever be so dehumanized. It's what you believe in and what you want to do. But like, I was 19 years old and I had been doing this for years, surrounded by other delusional assholes who want to do the same thing. That's how they get people like, someone who is trying to malinger their way out of the military, like Swafford was, into wanting to see, pink mist or whatever.
Well, imagine being a guy like Swafford trying to get his way out of the military, like hating his life, and then he's hazing a private for fucking up. Like, he's become like a believer in the shit.
Oh yeah.
And that to me, I felt that transition from smartass to, still smartass, but guy who takes his job seriously. I thought that it's rare. It's hard to show transition and transformation in film in a way like somebody grows, somebody changes their personality. And when it's done well, it's always really impressive. In this film, like, there are traces of it, but I feel like the extent to which that's almost solely confined to Jake Gyllenhaal and maybe just a little bit Peter Sarsgaard. I definitely agree with you though on that one, Joe, that watching him go from the smartass who reads Camus in the shitter to guy who's like, I want to fucking take this shot, but I also realize that I've got to like tend to my friend and tend to this field grade officer. Like, he's such a grown up at that point. He's like, he's basically outgrown the guy who's more or less been his conscience in that unit. And that's a really strange and really powerful scene.
Yeah, and it all happens in the span of 2.5 hours, and it's really hard to chart his change from being a shithead malingerer in the toilet to being, effectively turned into a murderous sociopath to being, okay, maybe this isn't such a good idea. All within 4 days of war. But I still think they did it to the extent that I feel like people get what they want out of it. You know, if people just want a dumb war movie, they can still have a dumb war movie, and they'll probably giggle when Cheddar Bob's playing with a corpse.
Or like the titty movies or whatever, like those kinds of things.
Yeah. Or if
can we talk about the camera lingering on the wall of shame? Like how much that to me seemed like a detail that was so like fleshed out. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
All of like the like agonized notes from the guys about like the women who had left them and things like that.
Yeah, and I wish we had something similar. Like, I didn't have anything to compare that to, but I can feel like that's what that looked like before email was so popular, or like MWRs were everywhere. But like, I can totally see that being something that would be like a centerpiece at any OP or any Firebase or anything like that.
Yeah, it's like girls that quit on you or whatever, or like, you know, the one that was like the note. It's all written on 100 Mile an Hour tape. I mean, those details were like, that's the thing that gets me about this film, is that some of the details are so well observed. I mean, some of the details, the brand, like he's branding the guy with the USMC thing, and it's made out of a coat hanger that's been bent, wrapped up with 100 Mile an Hour tape, or, you know, little things that are just so tied into like things that you experience in the military.
Yeah, this movie feels like they had
the broken canteen hoses, things like that.
It feels like they had a military advisor that they actually listened to. You know, like all these...
They listened to on the visuals, but they didn't listen to in the screenwriting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And which makes sense. If you know anything about the way movies are made, that makes sense. They don't hire the technical specialist until they've actually bought the script. And at that point, when they're actually shooting, I mean, the script isn't really going to get modified very heavily. So people wonder, like, how does this happen that a movie can get the visuals so right and the story so wrong? It's like, well, by the time that a script has actually entered into production, I mean, you're well past that point. If they've actually hired the crew, you know, they actually hired, they're out there, you know, dressing actors in costumes. Like it's past the point of being able to be like, oh, well, maybe this is kind of an oversimplification. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. That makes a lot more sense. I mean, because you have stuff like the wall of shame, and then you have like the detail they go into at the burning of the shit, and then you have a scene when the fireworks all explode and they run out of their tent because they think they're attacking, and not a single fucking weapon is loaded. Like,
I know, not a single weapon has a magazine in it. Oh my god, it's amazing,
that
right?
Aggravating. I was watching that movie at about 3 or 4 in the morning here in Washington because I don't sleep. And when that happened, I audibly yelled at the TV. I was so upset.
Well, I was the kid, the Fergus is watching. He's the private who's covering Swafford's fire guard, and he is listening on his Walkman and listening to Grandma got run over by a reindeer, and he accidentally. Okay, first of all, how in the fuck is a guy got a camp stove inside the ammo point?
Yeah,
you know,
that's my main complaint, is that I know you might be a shitbag, but who the fuck would do that? Next,
why is there like conveniently like a curtain made of cotton hanging next to it? And after that, there's absolutely by doctrine going to be a fire extinguisher in that ammo point. Like that's an inspectable item in an ammo point. You've got a fire extinguisher. It just sits there next to the fucking dude who's watching it. Like, so to me, it's like, oh shit, what do I do? Oh, put it out with my hands. Oh no, somehow it's managed to fire off a bunch of pressure activated fucking parachute flares. They're all aimed upwards. They're all shooting. Wow, this is really amazing. No one got hurt. It's just a really cool show. Like,
you know, it's a really good place for my munitions, right next to the tents.
Yeah, that was the other thing. That ammo point, I mean, what is it supposed to be, like 100 yards away from everything?
Yeah, it's like it'd be in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. Although I'll be honest, when I was in Afghanistan, some fucking dudes from another unit we had our ASP up like on a hill on the fob, and they called it the lower ASP, and it was just like a 40-foot container, basically 100 meters from their battalion headquarters. They just secretly kept munitions in.
We also did that.
Everybody's got a story about that shit.
So
it's dumb. As a former HHC XO, please don't do that. But yeah, I got it.
Oh yeah.
I want to start. I think this is the first movie, and I think we can start from this movie to map the military, the military career of John Krasinski, because
this is his origin story.
This is John Krasinski's origin story, writing beat-off letters for a major and getting booze for everybody, and then somehow he becomes one of the Benghazi Four.
I would argue that this is how Jim Halpert ended up in Scranton, Pennsylvania. because it's pretty obvious he's very well educated during all of The Office, because the character in Jarhead went to Dartmouth and studied classics. He's obviously very damaged from his war experience, so he doesn't want to study literature anymore. He goes and sells paper.
Right, and who would be able to fuck with somebody like Dwight as well, other than a Marine? Like, a lot of the stuff that he's doing is like, finding out a way to haze somebody without like technically hazing them.
Yeah, but then when shit just finally got bad in the office, he had to quit and become a mercenary and go to Benghazi.
Yeah,
he got called up.
He had to quit.
It's like in Rambo 2 when they pull him out of the jazz. Like, we got another job for you, John. He's like, sorry, Pam, I gotta go. I got to put in a leave of absence, and so Dwight's going to cover my paper route, and I'm going to go ahead and go kill some brown people in Libya. It's going to be great.
He had to run from Scranton after he shoved Dwight into a dryer. That was his. He went way too marine.
Burned him with a coat hanger that they lit up with an acetylene torch.
Yeah. Also, all right, so that pisses me off. I know this happened in like the late 80s. It happened around the same time I was born, when Swafford got to his first unit. But who the fuck leaves a whole bunch of Marines with an acetylene torch and rifles in their bays? Like, was that something that people used to do?
Deal? I don't know, man. I don't know how it used to be, because I mean, reading books about stuff from that era, I think that arms rooms, the stuff wasn't nearly as strict. I think that you actually, if I remember correctly, you might have had like a cage, like a weapons cage in your company's CP, but it was more common to have them around. I mean, the only thing I can possibly think of for a situation in which, other than that just being like a visual aid of like Peter Sarsgaard as the actor has to be doing something with his hands while he's talking to Swafford, is the potential concept of like, oh, they just got back from a training exercise, and that's why they have their rifles out. But once again, it's one of those details where you and I notice it, whereas most people would just be like, oh, it's the military, they have guns everywhere,
right?
Not knowing that like actually guns are more tightly controlled on military bases than they are in the civilian world.
Yeah, and I had my entire barracks shaken down because they thought somebody had an airsoft gun once. Like, you think we're gonna be having a fucking acetylene torch and branding one another?
Okay, but this was their late 80s, man. I mean, every old head guard dude who's been in for 40 years will tell you like, oh, we used to have beer vending machines in the barracks. Like, so I do think that there's probably some element of things were a little bit more, not to say laid back, but the way it was structured was different, for sure.
I also want to talk about one thing that I don't believe you brought up in your review, the scorpion fight that they had. So that was obviously like CG, right? Like this weird,
bad CG,
weird 2005 CG, and like I get it. I've seen scorpion fights, but it felt like it was one of those like, guys, if you can't do it right, just don't do it, please. But yeah, there's
what I want is I want them to make this authentic 1991 movie and use like claymation scorpion fighting.
That's a movie I would watch.
I would absolutely watch if this movie was made and they're like, we're going to get really in character. Because I mean, hey, they did it with the VHS interviews when the journalists are interviewing them and it's all shot on like VHS or put through a VHS sort of effect filter to make it look kind of grainy and low resolution. What if they made Jarhead, but they only made it with Gulf War era technology? So everything in the movie involves like claymation or like bad Star Wars effects.
You know what? It reminds me of Three Kings, where like anytime somebody gets shot, they have like a weird recreation of the inside of the body with the bullet going through, and it's all like obviously claymation, some sort of like they built a model to be like, this is what it looks like when your lung deflates inside of your chest cavity.
So we should review Three Kings, because I like Three Kings, but I also think that Three Kings is Jarhead for people who went to grad school. Like, it's the same sort of thing. It's just like, there's a Plastic Bertrand song. I'm so smart. Like, it's just, and I mean, I'm being a prick, but that's what we get paid for. We get paid to be pricks about movies. So
yeah, I thought I was called in because I'm a prick. I'm sorry.
Here's the other thing that I noticed about this that you would think would happen just in the because they are shooting out in a desert. Nobody gets a tan whatsoever. Everybody is white as fuck. All the white people.
Good point. Nobody gets sunburned either.
All the white people are constantly white. Like when they all take off the shirts, I'm like, you guys, like I stepped off the plane in Iraq, and I mean, I had a tan 20 minutes later. Like, and you know, of course, it was the raccoon eye tan where you tan from like the nose down and the wrists down. The army, you heard of the farmer's tan, which is a t-shirt, but the army tan is like your hands are tanned and like the lower half of your face is tanned and nothing else.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
you don't have the true deployment tan until you have the Kevlar strap tan going down the side of your faces and looking ridiculous.
And you have like the world's most sunburned nose and
your
nothing
nose
else.
Is constantly peeling. But yeah, there was at no point in time did anybody get tanned whatsoever. And it's like, I know you guys are at least out here in the sun. I can see this is being shot in the sun. You're in a desert somewhere. Somebody like just sit out for an hour or something, so that otherwise, because there's just a lot of pale skin going on.
Part of me wonders if maybe it was actually shot on a green screen. It wasn't actually shot in the desert. I have no idea. So I gotta ask, when I watched this, I felt like Jamie Foxx carried a lot of this movie. I thought Jake Gyllenhaal is definitely a good actor. I think he is definitely believable as his character, but I felt that Jamie Foxx he has to play a guy who loves the Marine Corps, who like buys the bullshit. But I thought that him as this movie as sort of a portrayal of an NCO having to like deal with soldiers was better than a lot of war movies that I've seen, in which it's either no one really knows who the person in charge, no one acts like the person in charge is actually they're in charge, and it's just like random ranks are thrown around here and there, or there's inexplicably like a captain leading like 4 privates, but there's never doesn't seems to have that sort of concept of how one has to manage these things. I thought as far as like a movie about an NCO who's just sort of like trying to make the best of things with his fuck up idiot soldiers, this is a pretty accurate film.
Yeah, he really did, like, he has a good mix of like being their leader, but also being, I don't want to say friendly with them, but you know, being down to earth with them. Like there is that barrier of rank that is supposed to be there, but he also manages to make it look like, hey, I give a fuck about these guys. You know, so I think Jamie Foxx was a perfect get for this. Like he's a fantastic actor. So and as the as the salty NCO who's in charge of everybody, who, like you said, buys into the bullshit and, you know, wants to, like, his thing when the colonel says, hey, we want, you know, your best snipers, and he says, God help me, it's you guys, and Jake Gyllenhaal says thank you, and he says, don't thank me, just don't get killed. And, you know, it's not go out and get a kill, it's not, you know, do me proud, it's don't die. Which that kind of stood out to me, that, you know, the guy who has been training these guys and leading them, you know, on these foot patrols and been in charge of them the whole time, and his parting, you know, thing to his only sniper team that he's sending out is don't get killed. So I think he was, yeah, Nate, you're right. Anybody else in that would have, I mean, I don't think the movie's great as it is, but, you know, there's Jake Gyllenhaal and Jamie Foxx both really, you know, play their roles well. This is like Marine Donnie Darko. You know, Donnie Darko finally gets on some SSRIs and joins the Marines, and it's still, but he's still like chasing instead of seeing the fucked up rabbit, he sees horses in the desert. Like, I would have loved it. I would have loved it if somebody had been like, dude, I have no idea what you're talking about. There's no horse here. It's just like, oh, well, anyway, let's go back to our patrol.
Why are you wearing that horse suit?
He starts writing all of his notes on his arm in permanent marker. He's like, why? We have pads of paper. It's like, I don't know. I just feel like this is how I need to do it. Okay.
They get back from the fucking the sniper mission, and everyone's doing sparkle motion, singing Duran Duran's Notorious.
Starting to really doubt your dedication to the U.S. Marine Corps.
So here is my big question that I always ask, since we're closing out here: is this movie fascist?
I don't think so. I don't think there's enough plot element for it to be fascist. It's just a story. It's like a chunk of time for a guy and how sad he is at the end of it. I mean, there's not enough for it to be fascist.
It's a shoot and cry movie where there's very little shooting and a lot of crying.
It really seems that way. There's nothing to make it fascist.
So if you had to rank it though, 1 to 5, you know, 1 fascies versus 5 fascies, what would you give it?
Anything that involves the military is going to at least have 1. So I'll put it at 1, because because there is like some elements of, like, at one point they say, fuck politics, we're here. Because there's always that one guy who's just like, this is dumb, we shouldn't be here, we shouldn't be in Iraq, and then Peter Sarsgaard's character is like, fuck politics, we're here, let's do it. You know, so there is that element of like, you know, we're Marines, we don't have to think about why we're doing it, we just do it. And in a lot of ways, that like turning off your brain to think about, you know, what's the point of us, you know, doing all this killing? And they show up they put up these pictures. The lieutenant general has that like thing where they put up the picture of the kid that's all fucked up from.
Oh yeah, Chris Cooper's character has like the Halabja pictures. and that
while
kind
they're
of stuff,
like while they're leaving, and they're just like, oh, that's really fucked up, and somebody's just like, where the fuck do you think he got that, man? We gave those things to. Which if you want to learn more about that, listen to the whole thing from the Iran-Iraq War by from Lions Led by Donkeys, because that is 6 fucking full episodes that has a lot of information about the backdrop of the chemical weapons that we sold to Saddam, and how exactly that what that means. But yeah, there's always that one guy that's smarter than everybody else who's like, this is fucked up and stupid and we shouldn't be here. And so like that whole well, let's just turn off our brains and just go kill people because that's what we do, that's what we're trained to do. That has an element, maybe not I don't know if that's a fascist element, but it certainly is an element that is not, it's not a good look, basically.
Right.
Joe, what do you think?
I agree with Francis in that this isn't an explicitly fascist movie. Like, there's definitely fascist aspects, like pulling up the pictures of Halabja to like, see, we need to go get rid of this motherfucker, when you have to ignore the fact we totally helped him gas Halabja. Or Sarsgaard's character being the guiding voice, even though he has like dead vacant eyes, about, hey, we need to go kill these brown people, rather than talk about how we are also the reason why we're here. There's a lot of accuracy in that when you gather any group of soldiers together as well. I mean, there's always one guy who, in my unit, it was me, saying this is really fucking stupid, we should go home. And there's always 6 or 7 dudes who are like, no, we need to go kill them so they don't attack fucking Minnesota or something. Anything that you dress up everybody in uniforms and start talking about something that happened in American military history, it's going to be by default at least a little fascist. It's just the way things work.
See, I disagree. I mean, I feel like there's 2 things. Number one, I think you can make a genuinely anti-war movie. The problem is whether or not people watching it receive it as anti-war, and I feel like that's hammered home in the book pretty hard, but especially like maybe a little bit overdone in the scene of them like having orgasm faces in the movie theater while they're watching like the helicopter scene from Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
But so there's that kind of irony there, that here's an anti-war movie that is being received as a pro-war movie by a bunch of young Marines who are about to go to war. I think for me, the danger in a thing like this is that this movie could be taken as why it's awesome to join the military and go whoop ass, or why it's bad to join the military, depending on the audience. And I think that the things that it portrays, it doesn't really analyze, doesn't really critique in any way. It doesn't really investigate or give you enough context to understand why they're doing it. Him, Cheddar Bob jumping up and like making cunnilingus faces at a passing Kuwaiti woman when they're driving, or the thing with them like wanting to shoot the Bedouins and the camels, and it's sort of implied that Cheddar Bob or Fowler shot the camel. Things like that. If it just seems like window dressing, whereas if you were able to investigate that a little bit further and talk about the fact that in some cases when people can commit acts of violence and get away with it, there's a certain type of person that absolutely will do it just for fun, and those people are dangerous. That to me doesn't really seem like it's given much treatment in here. And I guess the biggest thing to me is just that I don't know, by making it into a film in which people act this way because they're typecast to act this way, and the poet returns home to be poetic. The criminal who tried to escape in the Marine Corps and gets caught returns home and dies young. The sensitive guy gets out and gets sensitive, extra sensitive, with long hair and a beard and looks like Lane Staley. These people, it seems as though these people were born into the role they're going to play. They play that role and then they leave, and that nothing about their environment changes or influences their behavior. It just is who they are. That they are who they are regardless of circumstances. And I feel like that's not true when you're in the military. When you get sent to these things, you're slowly but surely broken down to the point where like this stuff becomes normal. And you're not doing it because you're like, wow, this is radical, man, I'm gonna fucking be an evil dude and mutilate a body. It's more, by the time that you're at that point where the dead bodies are in front of you, you're so past caring.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is it so I feel as though this is just, it's presented in a really kind of flat way. And I mean, I feel like that's a similar thing with Sam Mendes' other films. Like, think about Chris Cooper's character in American Beauty, who's like the closeted homophobic Marine officer who like yells and like watches weird old World War II movies with like the lights off, but makes his family watch them, and collects Nazi memorabilia, and then winds up killing Kevin Spacey at the end because like he gets outed as being gay. Like, everything about that scene of like him watching those World War II movies in American Beauty, like it's basically the same scene with a bunch of Marines watching Apocalypse Now. And it's completely like, who the fuck does that? You know what I mean? Unless they're literally doing it on screen because they're a caricature. And that to me is what I think is the shortcoming of this film, is that the story, the book is very strong. The parts that hew close to the book are very strong. The parts that just become caricatures so that like, you know, they become the big Greek tragedy mask that everybody's like, oh, he's the bad character. That just seems really dumb. And because of the accuracy of the other things, someone who doesn't know what they're looking at might watch this movie and be like, oh, wow, well, they definitely got the little details right as far as like the props. So clearly this movie must be accurate otherwise. And it's just so very not.
Yep. I don't really have anything else to add to that. I will say, I forget. While you were talking, I remembered one scene when they were walking and the helicopters were flying over, playing Creedence Clearwater Revival, and he was just pissed off because like that's Vietnam music, man. What the fuck? And I'm just trying to think like what music in 1989, 1990 would be like the music of the Gulf War. Was there music? Would it be Duran Duran? Would it be something?
Oh no! It would have been like, I mean, "Color Me Bad's I Want to Sex You Up" was a really big hit.
Well, they were also, at the end. They were
those guys would have been those guys would have been listening to fucking Damn Yankees. Can you take me high enough? They would have been. At
the end, they were listening to fuck. Yeah,
OPP.
No, it's not. It's not OPP. What the fuck? No, they're.
Let's jump.
Fight the Power. Fight the Power. Fight the Power by Public Enemy. Yeah.
Irony.
Well, yeah. Well. We can't all have amazing soundtracks like Three Kings, the smart people's war movie.
All right. Well, everybody, I hope that you enjoyed this. If you want more of our movie reviews, they are on the $3 Patreon level. $3 will get you all of those. $5 gets you access to all of our Patreon episodes. That is patreon.com/hellofaWayToDie. We have Joe, talk about your podcast too.
All right, so I'm the host of the Lines Led by Donkeys podcast. We talk about failures and blunders throughout all of military history and sometimes regular history too. You can find us on Twitter at lines_by or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yeah, like I said, the one that you guys, the Iran-Iraq war one, every time, it seemed like every episode, you're just like, I think we have to do another episode. And then it became 6 episodes. So, but it's.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize as somebody, since I produced the show, like for people who are curious about the Iran-Iraq war, you guys did probably the deepest dive into it that I've ever seen somebody do in like a popular history thing.
Oh, thanks.
So anyone listening to this show, if you guys want to know more about what led to Saddam Hussein becoming public enemy number 1 in 1990 and how we gave him all his chemical weapons, definitely listen to Lions Led by Donkeys because they explain it quite well.
Also, you should listen to the earlier episodes and learn about the Emu War.
and learn about wizards because there's just fucking wizards.
Yeah. History's weird like that. Sometimes there's wizards and birds involved.
So really quick aside about that. I one time read a book about the U.S. Army, one of the campaigns in World War II in New Guinea. And the author did a lot of times, he walked the track that they walked on fighting in the Papuan campaign and talked to a bunch of like native New Guineans. And they were like, oh yeah, this is like the fucking wizards won the battle. Like they were all about like, no, wizards fought this war. Like, granted, they're tribes people who live in a isolated part of New Guinea, but still, like I remember thinking about that, and after editing your episode, I was like, yeah, wizards. I know somebody who would get down with that shit.
Yeah, well, at some point, I'm sure what you should do. Joe has a bonus episode on his Patreon, which you should also subscribe to. But one about the final battle of Hogwarts and the tactics of the final battle, and then he and I have one about the tactics of Starship Troopers as well. So, I feel like a deep dive into every Harry Potter movie about is it fascist or not could also work. I don't know who we would subject to 8 movies like that though, or which of our our listeners we'd do that to as well. But we'll see. I refuse to read another book. God damn it. All right, everybody.
I refuse to read any of my own, so don't worry about it.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much, and we will talk to you next week.